Welcome to Bruce C. TV. I'm your host, Bruce C., and I'm here with my buddy Howard.
Hello.
He's back to tell a little story about growing up in Lyons. You maybe saw the previous video. You know that Howard and I got to be best friends in second grade. We knew each other since first grade, but we went to Catholic school. We went to St. Hugh Parish in Lyons, Illinois. St. Hugh School, it was our Catholic parish in town. And I remember that it was like the focal point of our family. Like my mom got married there. My great grandmother worked for the priests in the rectory and fed them and stuff.
And my mom and dad got married there also. And my mom went to St. Hugh School. She went to St. Hugh School. So that's 3 generations in our family that went to the school. The school is now closed, but it was like you say, focal point.
But it was a big deal. Yeah, it was a big deal for us there. And so we grew up in Lyons, and I talked a little bit about Lyons, and there'll be a lot of stories about Lyons. Lyons was I like to describe it as an eclectic community. We had a lot of bars.
Yes.
We had a lot of strip clubs. We had some of that stuff going on. We had a lot of churches too. Yeah. And I mean, we had, typical people, and we weren't. It was very diverse in a lot of different ways, culturally and in that way. It wasn't racially diverse, however. No. And I remember when I was growing up, my dad died when I was 7, so he was 30. He was young. My mom raised 3 of us by herself, but we always grew up in a house with a lot of music and we had a lot of fun all the time. And so I grew up with listening to Sarah Vaughan and Nat King Cole and Ella Fitzgerald. And I remember when I was a kid, my mom, I was watching TV, had black and white TV on. It was one of those variety shows, I don't know who it was. But I remember that Louis Armstrong was on. And I remember sitting in the chair watching this guy playing and listening to music. And I remember my mom screech. And she was running on the stairs saying, "Louis, Louis!" And she's dancing to the song. And I'm standing there thinking, I fell in love with the music. And my point is that although there were not a lot of, I didn't grow up with a lot of different races, we grew up culturally diverse. We were exposed to these different cultures and respected cultures. That's how I was raised. Our next door neighbors, 2 doors down, were Hispanic. They were Mexican, and they were like our best friends to this day.
They were still.
But
friends.
I never looked at people by color. I respected different cultures. So, but.
And it's what you're taught. I grew up right across the street from the school and church, and my mom was a saint. She always was a saint. She wanted you to know to do the right thing, and she never wavered. She always made you do the right thing. So we were brought up with all this other crazy stuff happening around you, but my mom always would say, do the right thing, and this is the right thing, and how do you treat people, and how you're.
And of course, your dad was.
And my dad was kind of an opposite, but my mom corrected him his whole life. My dad would be swearing at the kitchen table, and my mom corrected him. Forever. She never ever not corrected him. She never gave up. She never cut him any slack. She corrected him every single time. So that's a learning experience right there.
Yeah, but she wasn't a zealot. She wasn't. She wasn't evil about her. Dictatorial about it. She was just the nicest human being you could ever meet. Truly, right? She just she volunteered for everything. She was friends with everybody. No one ever had a bad word ever to say about your mom, ever.
Yes. And in 1969, we were in 7th grade. We're like 12 years old, kind of not really paying attention to the whole big world or whatever. We're kind of living in our own area, our own space. And then the diocese decided to bus the black kids into our suburban Catholic school voluntarily,
Yeah,
it was a big thing.
Yeah, we didn't understand, and we didn't know it was all part of this integration, whatever was happening at that time. At least I didn't.
No,
I was very
didn't
unaware.
either.
So this was the deal, right? I remember that, when I heard about it, I thought, well, okay, they're coming from a Chicago school. They must really go to a crummy school. It must be falling apart, or so. And it really made me think, our school must be pretty amazing. Yeah. And I never really thought it was that amazing.
Yeah. Well, when it was starting to go down, before it happened, I had a little bit of a lead on it because my mother volunteered to bring home one of the students for lunch every day. For the whole year that he was there, he came home every day with us for lunch and ate with us. So I knew ahead of time what was going to happen, and I was getting a little nervous. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in the neighborhood or what people are going to do or something. I'm thinking, hey, I don't know if they're going to beat us up or what the heck's going on. But it never turned out to be a terrible thing. It turned out to be a wonderful thing, actually. But,
I was oblivious. I do know I was oblivious really until the day before. So I was the school captain. I was in 7th grade, but I was still a captain. And my job as a captain wasn't a big deal, other than to make sure I assigned the students. Like Howard always worked the corner by his house, and I assigned those every week. And then my job was to make sure they were there, right? So I have my little orange belt on, and I'd walk over. Okay, Howard's there, and I'd go to the different corners, and then I'd hang out on the playground and make sure the kids on the playground were doing a good thing or doing their job. So I remember the day before, Sister Marlene was our principal, and I remember she had this narrow face and short hair. But I remember in her office, I remember succinctly that she got down to my level. So I remember she got down, so she was eye to eye with me. And she said, Bruce, tomorrow you're going to experience something that will impact you for the rest of your life. She says, you're going to see some things that are not going to be very pretty. You're going to hear some things, and some of these things could be disturbing to you. But this is, you're going to go through it. You're going to experience it. Your job is to be the patrol captain. And she goes, all you have to do is do your job. Just focus on making sure that the kids are safe, that the other patrol kids are in their spots, and that's all you got to worry about. But understand, it's going to impact you. So that day came.
Yeah, and I wasn't on the playground because I was on my corner, whatever. But it was a lot of people, a lot of anxiety. Yes, it was. Everything's like a normal day of school. It's just so monotonous and boring. And this was like, wow, like I said, we're 12. We really don't really know exactly what's going on, how people are going to react or whatever. We just kind of going along. But it was a big deal. And then on the playground.
Well, I remember that we had the back of the school. The main street was the front of the school. The back of the school is where the bus came, and the bus parked in the back. And it was a playground. They had to walk across an asphalt playground.
300 feet.
Yeah, and they had. School. I don't remember how it was, but in my mind, I just remember that it was kind of cordoned off walkway where there were nobody. There were protesters there. There were TV cameras there. There was all this hubbub. But the kids were able to walk off this bus and walk into school, without people surrounding them. They had space. But what I remember seeing all this mayhem and stuff that was kind of going on, and then this bus pulls up, and then the door opens up. And out walk these little kids. And
seven kids, that's all they...
7 kids step off this bus and start walking towards me, towards the school. And I'm thinking, this is crazy. All this hubbub over these 7 kids who are, for some reason, want to go to our school. And it's like, it was beyond me. But
and they had 2 kids. They didn't have any 8th graders. It was... 2 kids in each. There were 7 kids. There was 2 kids in each class.
And we had 2 boys in
yes, we had 2 boys, and then a 4th grader was Kevin, the boy that came home with me for lunch. That was his little sister. She was a 4th grader, and then there was 2 in each class.
All I remember, mostly what I remember is that they were really good kids. They were cool kids. I mean, I don't know their economic. I don't know if they had more money than I. I mean, it wasn't. They dressed in our uniform, but they were really cool kids. And the one guy in our grade, the one kid, I mean, we were friends. We got to be friends with them. But in our world, it wasn't about race. Our world was about us versus the 7th grade, like the 8th graders. Like we had bullies in 8th grade, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So we didn't like in our school was kind of known. There were some tough kids that went to Catholic school at the time.
They ended up there because their parents thought they were going to be more disciplined.
Yeah, so we had these bullies, guys, right? And we had a couple of guys that we knew that were bullies in the 8th grade.
Yeah, and one day one kid came up and he was messing with the black kid, and they started fighting. Physically started fighting. But
what was the deal with it?
Well, he had drumsticks. He always had drumsticks. He was a drummer, and he always would like tap on stuff.
And it was we thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I mean, this kid had drumsticks in his back pocket, and he'd be, it was just really, that was cool, right?
And then he got a little worried after they punched each other a little bit, started pushing, and started getting a little more aggressive. And he pulled out those drumsticks and he just whacked the kid on the side of the head. And by then the teachers were already coming out, and we were trying to stop it ourselves because it was like the 7th graders against the 8th graders kind of a thing. And it was kind of over right then and there when he whacked the kid. It was kind of, he just stunned him.
But even at the time, I don't know what the fight was about. I can't say at the time that it was a racial thing. It may have been. I mean, maybe this kid was a racist and wanted to beat up a black kid. All I know is that he was our buddy, and he beat up our bully.
Yeah.
And it was really, he was our hero.
And then the kid got suspended, and then he came back. But there was like after that, it was like it was no problems anymore.
We've never had any problems.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
So yeah, we got to be, we got to be.
But my mom always said after that happened, a lot of the families took their kids out of the school and they went to the public school. And I remember my mom, saying, those people sent their kids to St. School for the wrong reasons. That they would do something. I
believe you lived the faith,
Right.
And for me, like I said, I did remember Sister Marlene. It was right. I mean, it did impact me, but not maybe the way you would think. I grew up respecting other cultures, and I respect different races and cultures. I didn't think of it as race. I didn't think of color. I didn't judge people by the color of their skin. And what I learned that day, what impacted me, was seeing how people reacted when they had this. Like this hatred or this anger over these little kids who they didn't know at all, and to judge people by that, it just sprung to my mind that the right thing to do was, to not do that. And
but you can be taught to be a good person, and if you listen, and like my mom always respect the people and just do the right thing. Don't worry what other people say. Whatever you know, what's right or wrong, just do the right thing, and that's how it works out.
Well, and to kind of show you, so when my daughter was in kindergarten, she made this for Martin Luther King's celebration of Martin Luther King's birthday, and she drew this picture, and she wrote, "Martin Luther King wanted everyone to be treated fairly. He wanted people to love, not hate. That was Martin's dream." So we had it framed. It's hanging up on my wall.
You taught her well, Bruce.
Yeah. Well, and truly, this is a lesson that I've learned. I've lived every day of my life, and we wanted to do this video to tell that story in celebration of Black History Month, because it means a lot to us, and that's where we stand.
Yes, it does. All right.
That's it?
Yep.
To be continued.